Help me reach 3,000 subscribers. Hit like and leave a comment. I really do read them all. Greg's backyard smelled like smoke and overcooked sliders. Plastic cups sweated on every table, and people leaned into small circles, competing over stories nobody would remember tomorrow. Maddie, as usual, worked the crowd like it was her personal stage. She had been at it for weeks. The little digs, the backhand compliments, the just joking lines. Tonight was no different. Remember in college, she told Tasha loud enough for the whole patio, how I swore I'd never end up with a guy who wore work boots to dinner? She laughed, eyes sliding toward me, making sure the dart hit. The group chuckled politely. I took a sip of soda, kept my eyes on the string lights above the fence. Greg tried to shift gears, telling a story about his lawnmower, but Maddie wasn't done. She tilted her glass, waited until the conversation dipped, and went in for the kill. With my ex I'd look better, she announced, like she was giving a weather report. The patio went still. Forks froze. Someone forced a laugh, too loud, too quick. I set my cup on the railing, watched condensation trace down the side, and said nothing. People waited for a reaction. I didn't give them one. Greg cleared his throat. Tasha tossed out a joke about bad lighting. Maddie looked into her drink as if the line had never left her mouth. If I'd known where it was headed, I would have packed a bag that night. She acted like nothing had happened the next morning, too. We rent a townhouse on a quiet street. I bought most of the furniture before we married. She picked the pillows and the tall plants that shed on the floor. That morning, she hummed, cracked eggs, and scrolled her phone between stirs. I set down my tool belt on the chair and took out my weekday planner. Numbers calm me better than coffee. She slid me a plate. Eat before it gets cold. You remember last night? I asked without looking up. Her smile didn't blink. What, the sliders? Greg overcooked them again. The line about your ex, I said. I poured hot sauce slow. You said you'd look better with him. She set the spatula down. It was a joke. People were tense. You know Tasha? She feeds on drama. Then don't feed her. I pushed my plate away an inch. Comparisons are closed in our house. Permanently. She held the counter with one hand like it was a podium. You're sensitive this week. You've been stiff about everything. No, I answered. I'm specific. You want to run bits for your audience. Run them without me. If you need a +1, take your ex. I'll pass. She blinked. So now you're sulking. I leaned back in the chair, crossed an ankle over my knee. I'm not sulking. I'm adjusting. Here's how we move forward. She angled her chin. I'm listening. Separate calendars, I said. If you want me at something, it goes on the calendar with 3 days' notice. Separate budgets. Joint account covers the actual roof and the light bill. Your social stuff isn't we anymore. And I'm done being your prop at parties. If you think I'm beneath your image, solve it without me. She laughed once, flat. You're overreacting to a comment. That's the last time I argue about my value, I said. I'm not debating my rank with my wife. She crossed to the sink and turned the water on higher than necessary. It hammered the pan like rain. Whatever. Eat. I'll eat later, I replied. I stood, took my keys off the hook. Tonight, I'm sleeping in the guest room. Travel pillow, no hard feelings. Keeps things neat. She turned off the water fast. That's ridiculous. Neat, I repeated. Put your events in the calendar if you want me there. If you bring up any former guy again, you go alone. We're not running that script. She lowered her voice like we had an audience. You're dictating terms? I'm drawing lines, I said. You decide where you stand. I left the plate steaming and walked out. In the truck, I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and drove to the shop. Sawdust doesn't have opinions. The crew was already there. Luis, my foreman, had coffee in both hands and a stack of invoices under his arm. You look like you slept next to a leaf blower, he said. Guest room tonight, I said, flipping open my planner. We're tightening the calendar at the shop too. If a client wants to change something, they go through me or you. No more side favors. Luis nodded. Heard. Any fires? None, I said. And I plan to keep it that way. By noon, my phone buzzed 3 times in a row. Maddie. I let it pass. At 12:30, another buzz, a photo of a coffee cup and a sticky note. Sorry. I was out of line. I'll be better. That evening she met me at the door in a cotton dress, hair down, calm voice. Can we restart? She asked. I had a stupid moment. I'm not 12. I know how it sounded. I hung my keys, kept my boots on. You want to restart? Fine. The lines stay. I brought cupcakes for your crew tomorrow, she said. Tell Luis I said thanks for fixing our shelves. Bring them if you want, I answered. Call first. She stepped closer. I care how you look next to me, okay? It matters. We both should look put together. She gestured at my boots. I build cabinets, not mannequins, I said. If you need a model, you married the wrong guy. She exhaled and moved past me to the couch. You're not fun when you go literal. I'm not fun when I'm tested, I said. We're done talking about my rank. Calendar, budget, guest room. She gave me a thumbs up she didn't feel and turned on the TV. I grabbed a box, moved my things to the guest room. Socks, a book, spare watch. Nothing dramatic. Quiet changes are harder to undo. 2 days later, right when we were gluing face frames, she appeared at the shop with a bag of sandwiches and a smile like she sponsored the place. Surprise lunch, she said to the guys. You boys earn it from me. Luis smirked at me. I wiped my hands, stepped out from the bench. Appreciated, I told her. Next time, text first. This is a job site. She touched my arm like she had a right to move it. I'm trying to help your image. Some clients are more elevated. You could, I don't know, tighten your shirt. Maybe let me handle the estimates? I'm better with presentation. Luis coughed into his sleeve and pretended to sort screws by height. I looked at her hand, then the crew, then the doorway where one of our clients, Mrs. Campbell, retired principal, direct as a plumb line, was waiting for me to measure a side panel. You don't walk into my shop and tell me who handles my numbers, I said evenly. And you don't touch me when I'm working. Clients talk to me or to Luis. Sandwiches are nice. Boundaries are nicer. Mrs. Campbell stepped in like the bell had rung. Young lady, she said, he runs a tight crew. Let him run it. Maddie's smile thinned to a line. She recovered. Of course. I'm proud of him. I just want him to shine. I nodded to the back. Breaks at 1. We'll eat then. Thanks for stopping by. I turned my body toward the layout table. A physical pivot is stronger than any speech. At 1 we ate. She tried to stay. I walked her to the door. Also, I said there, not loud, not soft, you're off the accounting login. Luis and I are enough. If you need a receipt for home stuff, email me. Her eyes sharpened. You're locking me out of your business? I'm keeping work clean, I said. This is my territory. You have yours. She tilted her head. You're punishing me. I'm picking up my tools, I replied. That's not punishment. It's maintenance. She delivered the cupcakes the next day with bows and a second apology for the party. The crew ate them. I thanked her. I didn't hand her a seat at my desk. She left with a smile so bright it scratched. That weekend, Greg and Tasha hosted a backyard cookout to clear the air. Their words. Maddie dressed like she was stepping onto a stage. I wore jeans and a clean shirt because that's who I am. She rehearsed party lines in the car. I let the radio cover them. Tasha handed everyone drinks near a folding table with too many dips. She leaned into me. No hard feelings, right? None, I said. But I'm not playing the clown tonight. You never play the clown, she said with a sugary wink. You're the straight man. We need both. People crowded the patio. Greg turned on an old song and told a story about his lawn. It was dull and safe, the way lawn stories are. For a minute, I thought it would all pass. Then Maddie tapped a spoon to her glass. Quick toast, she chirped. To friends who push us to be our best. I used to think I had to settle for safe. But life is about leveling up. Tasha clapped. A couple of neighbors chimed in. I sipped my soda. And some husbands, she added, lighter than air, should be grateful they got the upgrade they did. I could have done better. But I'm generous. Tasha's grin froze like spilled wax. Greg stared at his shoes. Someone muttered, yikes. Derek, my buddy from the firehouse, looked at me over the rim of his cup. The air went thin. I set my cup down and stepped onto the small concrete square by the grill so she could hear me without me raising my voice. Don't use my name for your ladder, I said. Not here, not anywhere. You want an audience, rent a hall. She blinked. You're misreading. It was a joke. I'm not laughing, I said. Enjoy your night. I looked at Derek. You good to grab the tool stand from my truck on Monday? Done, he said. I put my keys in my pocket and left. I didn't slam anything. I didn't make a scene. I walked 2 blocks, called a ride, and went home. In the kitchen, I moved my cookware to a labeled bin because I plan my exits like I plan builds, one step at a time. I sent Maddie a calendar invite labeled, no more joint events. Then I canceled the dinner reservation she'd made under both our names for the following week and called the golf course to remove myself from Greg's foursome. Quiet cuts, clean edges. The next morning, she came home with a plastic grin and a bag of groceries. "You bailed," she said, tossing keys into the bowl. "I drew a line," I answered. "There's a difference. You humiliated me." "I didn't say a word about you," I said. "I talked about me. That's new for you." She put the bag down with a thud. "You're going to make me the bad guy." "I'm going to make me the main character in my own life," I said. "New schedule. I'm coming to nothing this week. Handle your own crowd." "You're being dramatic." "I'm being exact," I said. "You want help? Ask with respect. If you can't do that, do it alone." She went quiet, then soft. "Let me try again." "Try all you want," I said. "Lines stay." 2 days later, she tried the second tack. She swung by the shop with a box of custom cookies shaped like little cabinets and a handwritten card for the crew. "You guys are rock stars. My husband is the best craftsman in the county." She hugged Luis in front of everyone before he had a chance to duck. She told Mrs. Campbell she could host book club at our place to show off the built-ins. She touched my shoulder and whispered, "I've got your back." "You have my schedule then?" I whispered back. "Because it says no house tours." She pouted. "You're impossible." "I'm consistent," I said. After she left, Luis whistled low. "She's campaigning." "Not at my shop," I said. I pulled up the accounting app and rerouted our business delivery address back to the warehouse so nothing landed at home with a bow. Then the wall that should have held got a crack. Tasha launched a new podcast episode, Settling Up, with a guest whose voice I knew before I heard her name. The clip pinged my phone 6 times in 10 minutes. Derek sent it with a wince emoji. My sister sent it with silence. I sat in the truck outside the shop and hit play. Tasha's peppy voice. Maddie's breathy laugh. "I used to date men who turned heads," Maddie said. "I'm married for stability. I gave a good man a chance even though he wasn't, my usual. Think of it as community service." Tasha laughed too loud. "So many women do that." "It's fine," Maddie went on. "He's not a star. He's safe. He should be grateful." That was the moment the respect died. Not faded. Died. I put my phone down face up on the passenger seat and watched the screen go dark. Then I unlocked the shop, told Luis to finish the Campbell job without me, and drove home. Maddie was at the dining table with her laptop open and a ring light leaning against a chair. "Hey," she said without looking up. "Can you grab the camera from the closet? Tasha wants to do a follow-up segment." "No," I said. I set my keys on the table. "And pack your microphone, because the show's over." She glanced up, confused by my tone because she'd gotten used to the measured one. "What? You went on a public show and called me your charity," I said plainly. "That's not a slip. That's a system." She straightened. "It wasn't about you. It was a general point. It named me without saying my name," I said. "And I'm not a prop." She closed the laptop slowly, like that would slow the consequences. "You're making it bigger than it is." "It's as big as my life," I said. "Here's what happens next. I'm ending the lease at the end of the month. It's in my name. I'm moving out this week to Derek's loft. You can have the townhouse until the 31st. After that, it's on you. The joint account pays rent and utilities through the month. Everything else splits. I'm shifting my deposits to my business account today. I've booked movers for Friday for my stuff." Her eyes widened. "You can't." "I can," I said, "and I will. You showed me who you are on a microphone. I'm showing you who I am with a calendar and a truck." She stood, hands out like she was holding invisible boxes. "You're throwing away our marriage because I told a story?" "You threw it away when you decided I was a project," I said. "I don't live on pedestals. I build real things with real wood. The pedestal can collect dust." She swallowed. "Wait. Slow down. Don't do anything rash." "Nothing here is rash," I said. "I've had a week of data. The lines were clear. You crossed them again. I'm done." She took a breath and switched to sweet. "Let me fix it. I'll post a correction. I'll tell people you're incredible." "I don't need promo," I said. "I need respect. You don't have it to give." She tried one more thing, her old favorite. "You're going to look like the villain if you leave." "I don't live in your stories," I said. "I live in the house I pay for. And I'm leaving that house because you turned it into your stage." She watched me pack. I used 3 bins and a suitcase and a contractor bag for the heavy gear. I labeled boxes with a pencil on painter's tape because details matter. I took my coffee maker, pots, my tools, the framed photo of my dad in his uniform, and the quilt my mother sewed. I left the TV, the plants, the throw pillows, and the decorative blanket ladder she bought and never used. Quiet choices, clean edges. On Friday, Derek showed up with his pickup and a roll of ratchet straps. He leaned against the door jamb and looked at Maddie. "I'll be quick," he said to her, polite but short. "We're just grabbing his stuff." She folded her arms. "Tell him he's overreacting." Derek looked at me. I loaded a box. "You want me to say it?" he asked. "Say what you see," I said. Derek turned to her. "Ma'am, you ran him down in public. Twice. There's a cost." She rolled her eyes. "Everybody's so sensitive." I didn't answer. We stacked boxes, tied them down, and left. I didn't slam a door. I didn't give her the scene she craved. The absence was the scene. In Derek's loft, the first night was quiet. He offered me a beer. I took water. He said he'd sleep easy with someone else finally telling the truth aloud. I set up my coffee maker in the corner like a flag and slept on a borrowed mattress without dreams. The next week was logistics. I signed a month-to-month on a small condo near the river with a good garage. I changed the mailing address on my accounts. I wrote our landlord a notice, every line of which was true and neutral. I took my name off all her gym passes and auto deliveries. I stopped being the man who handled her logistics. It felt like putting down a sack of wet cement I'd carried for years. Maddie tried soft. She left a bag at the shop with a note on top. "I'm sorry. I see it now. Come home." She attached a photo of us from a day we built a planter box, and she smiled so hard her eyes were tired. I put the bag in the office, unopened. She tried sweet. She reserved 2 tickets to a game, second row. "Thought you'd like it. You can bring Derek if you're mad," the text read. I sold the second ticket to a neighbor and went with Luis. She tried righteous. "You're punishing me," she wrote. "Real men don't run." I didn't reply. I was at a job site making sure a floating shelf stayed level. On the 28th, she asked to meet for coffee. Neutral ground. I said yes, with a time limit. We sat in a quiet shop with chalkboard menus and a line of commuters. She arrived dressed like a meeting. She reached across the table and touched my wrist. "Tell me how to fix it." I slid my hand away and folded it with the other. "You don't want to fix it. You want me back in the audience. You took everything away overnight," she said, voice low. "The house. The events. People are asking questions." "They can ask you," I said. "You have a microphone." She flinched. "That show was a mistake." "You have a pattern," I replied. "Jokes at my expense. Public lines. Then sugar. It's not a mistake. It's a plan." She pulled herself taller. "So you're done." "That's it. That's it," I said. "I'll swing by tonight to pick up the last box." "Then what?" she asked. "You think you'll do better out there?" "I'll do better without contempt in my kitchen," I said. I stood. "I wish you a quiet life." She stared like I'd cursed her. "You're not even angry." "I wore anger out a long time ago," I said. "Now I wear decisions." That night, I showed up with Derek and Adali. She'd lined up some of her friends like witnesses, Tasha in a blazer, and a couple of women who never remembered my name. They stood by the window holding cups like scorecards. Maddie wanted an audience for the one scene she could control. I didn't give them the performance. I walked in, nodded hello like we were in a bank, rolled the dolly to the guest room, and stacked the last boxes. I took my toolbox from the closet, the one I kept when I thought this would be a home I'd build forever. On my way out, I set my key on the counter. One of the women whispered something to Tasha. Tasha smiled into her cup. Maddie tried to reclaim the floor. "Everyone makes mistakes," she said aloud. "Real grown-ups work through them." I listened to myself breathe and kept my voice easy. "Real grown-ups don't audition their partners," I said. "Keep the spotlight. I'm taking the switch." She flinched like I'd tossed something. I hadn't. I was a man holding nothing. I turned to go. She pushed the door, blocking me for a heartbeat. "You'll be back," she said, chin up. "You can't handle being alone." I met her eyes. "It's easier than being with someone who treats me like a project." Then I left, with Derek behind me and Adali rolling over the threshold. The click of the door closing was the end note. The following month, I lived like a human again. I woke before sunrise, ran the river path, got coffee from the little place downstairs where the owner says my name right. I put the truck in a new garage with an actual organizer, not just a pile of odds and ends under tarps. I upgraded my drill. Work went clean. Louise said I smiled between orders. We finished the Campbell project ahead of schedule, She sent a note with a photo of the book club in front of the shelves and handwritten words. Integrity looks better than polish. It sat on my desk for a week before I noticed I'd been reading it every morning. On Saturdays, I joined a pickup basketball group at the park. That's where I met Erin. Teacher, practical shoes, dry jokes that land. She asked about the calluses on my hands and didn't use them to grade me. We got coffee and walked downtown. She didn't need a microphone. She said what she meant and let the silence be full. I didn't rush it. I don't rush anything that matters. My friend stuck. Derek came by to hang blinds in my condo and refused to let me pay him. Greg texted once, uncomfortable and messy. Bro, I didn't realize how far it had gone. I should have shut her down on toast night. I'm sorry. I sent back. You're good. I shut it down. Tasha de-invited me from a couple of group things. Fine. A week later, she posted less about leveling up and more about self-care. Someone told me through someone that Maddie had moved into a smaller place across town with a roommate who can't stand shoes in the hall. The podcast episode disappeared after a month, replaced with a vague monologue about change. Her show's views slid. Mutual acquaintances stopped asking me to events where she was in charge because they don't like watching people get used as props. I didn't cheer. I didn't need to. One night, months later, I flipped through my old planner and found the week of the backyard roast circled in pencil. I remembered the way the string lights trembled in the breeze, the way people waited for me to explode and how I didn't. I remembered how fast I used to fix broken things. I didn't fix this. I put it down. Erin came over with a bag of groceries and a calm smile. She put onions on the counter and took her time. She asked about a shelf I was building for a client and why I'd chosen maple instead of oak. I told her because maple doesn't pretend to be exotic. It does its job, takes a finish, and holds shape. She said that sounded like me. We ate at the counter under a light I'd installed straight the first time. After dinner, we walked to the river and watched an older couple do slow laps. Erin tucked her hand through my arm. No speeches, no tests, just a steady grip. Any regrets? She asked. About leaving? I shook my head. About staying as long as I did, maybe. But I don't do maybes. She nodded. Then don't. We turned back toward my building. The place smelled like rain and cut grass. I opened the door with a key that fit on the first try. Inside, the shelves I made were level and the dishes were stacked and the calendar on the wall had my name on every square I chose. I slept easier than I had in years. I don't carry her words anymore. My house is quiet. My truck starts on the first turn. My business is booked through the fall. On Sundays, I grill something simple on my balcony and watch dogs pull their owners down the path. I don't need to be anyone's project or pedestal or story. I'm a man who builds straight and walks away from crooked contracts, spoken or otherwise. If she ever tells people she gave me a chance, I'll let them believe it. I didn't need a chance.